Good morning. We're going to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order, and I'm going to yield to Councilwoman Capini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please stand for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
All right, roll call.
Suarez. Cohen. Maniscalco. Capeen.
Present.
Miranda. Vieira. Reddick.
Here. All right, get a motion to approve the addendum to the agenda. All right, got a motion from Mrs. Miranda, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Those opposed? All right, we go to the ceremony activities. Item number 1, Mr. Vieira.
Yes, actually, I motion that the requested commendation be moved to a later date due to an unexpected family matter on the part of Mr. Steve Barbas and his family.
Second.
Okay, got a motion from Mr. Vieira, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, go to item number 2, Ms. Capini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. Good morning. Tampa City Council is proud to declare April as Water Conservation Month and encourages our citizens to practice water conservation all year long. April is traditionally the driest month in Florida, and since 1998, water conservation practitioners, including the governor and cabinet, have declared April Water Conservation Month. The City of Tampa's Water Department is the main force for water conservation in Tampa, delivering drinking water to a service population of approximately 600,000 plus people in the Tampa Bay area. Tampa City Council salutes the efforts of our water department to conserve this finite resource and gives its heartfelt thanks and appreciation to all the dedicated men and women who work tirelessly to ensure that our citizens are provided with the finest water in the country. The finest water in the country. I like that. Therefore, Tampa City Council declares April 2019 as Water Conservation Month and offers their full support to all conservation efforts. Thank you. Present this to you. Thank you for all your efforts. If you'd like to say a few words.
Sure. Chuck Weber, Water Department Director. Thank you for this commendation. We certainly appreciate it. Water conservation is important for managing our water demands and sustaining our natural resources. We have a small but a very mighty group of water conservation in the Water Department, Phoenix McKinney and Julie Palshak and Jill Lehman, who recently retired. They work tirelessly day in, day out, on weekends and at night, providing education materials, low flow water devices to help conserve water. They also do water audits at our residents and our customers' homes to help them optimize their water usage, and they are the driving force behind our success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. And thank you all for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would like to invite my friend and constituent, Mrs. Nora Payne, to come up. I understand also Nora has Noel and her peer and the peer mentor, Ava. Nora Payne is going to be speaking about a very wonderful endeavor that I really want all the community to know about, called the Penguin Project, which is going to be happening here in April in the North and New Tampa area. It's going to be a production of the play Aladdin Jr. that's going to be put on by a 100% special needs cast. And it's a very special endeavor. And I wanted Nora, who's the president of the New Tampa Players, to come and talk to the public about this great program.
Thank you, Councilman Vieira, and thank you all for having us here today. My name is Nora Payne, and I'm president of the New Tampa Players and also the director of the Penguin Project production. Penguin Project is a very special program. It is a theater program designed for children with special needs. We have two of our cast members here. This is Noel and his peer mentor, Ava. One part of the Penguin Project that is unique that you won't find anywhere else is the peer mentor aspect. Each young artist is buddied up with a peer mentor for the entire rehearsal process, from the beginning all the way through the final curtain. And the peer mentor's responsibility is to know their young artist's blocking, their choreography, their music, everything that the young artist would need to know. And they're also there to form a special friendship with that young artist and guide them along the way throughout the production. Penguin Project was invented by Dr. Andrew Morgan in 2004 in Illinois. There are 28 replication sites throughout the country, and we are the first replication site in the state of Florida. And I would like to invite all of you to come and see the performance. The dates are Friday, April 5th, so we open in 2 weeks, at 8 p.m., Saturday, April 6th at 7 p.m., and Sunday, April 7th at 3 p.m. And all of the performances are at the University Area CDC on 22nd Street between Fletcher and Bears. Thank you very much. We appreciate this opportunity.
And thank you, Nora. And I also wanted to mention, are you folks in need of any further financial support to complete the program?
We are in need of financial support. We have about $1,500 left to raise for the production.
Great. Well, I would encourage all of the many, many Tampanians watching City Council right now to please chip into this great program because it's a wonderful thing. Some of the best memories of my life growing up as a young person were watching my oldest brother Juan, who's developmentally disabled, in a play at the First Baptist Church of Brandon. It really gives families a special sense of pride, and it's a great endeavor. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Come on.
This morning, we have with us some special people from Peace Progressive Missionary Baptist Church, and I'm going to ask that they stand and be recognized. And I'm also going to ask them to come down to the mic. Pastor Kemp.
Good morning, Councilman Reddick. This is our Peace Junior Achievers, and we thought it not robbery to get them civically engaged at a very early age so that they could learn the inner workings of city governments, because I do believe they probably would aspire to be your successors in the years to come.
Well, have them to, one of them you might have to lift up.
Okay. Just introduce yourself.
Say his name and
Just introduce yourself. Tell me
state your name and what school you go to.
My name is Josiah, and my school is Montessori Prep.
Okay. Next one.
Step in the middle.
Just look at us.
Yeah, just look right at them.
Yeah.
I'm Hezekiah, and I go to Westshore Elementary.
Okay.
Come on over, Joel. Y'all switch. Switch.
My name is Joel Washington, and I go to Icon Preparatory School.
So what are y'all doing for your spring break?
Not really.
Studying and preparing for your future.
Studying and preparing for our future.
Pastor Kemp, anything else you would like to say?
Well, Councilman, you have been an inspiration to all of us in the greater Tampa Bay area, and we would just like to thank you and all of the councilmen for the great work that y'all have done in the city of Tampa under the administration of Bob Buckhorn, and whoever is our next mayor. We pray that our city will continue to be the best city in the continental USA.
Okay. Well, we thank you, and I know you'll be meeting with different people today, including the outgoing mayor, so Wish you well there. Mr. Maniscalco.
Just wanted to mention that my office does a thing called the Kids Council. So we invite schools, and if your school wants to join us, we give you the information. But we invite your class to City Hall to hear, and you get to meet different department people. You might meet the chief of police, you might meet other city council members, the clerk, and we just give you a rundown of how city government works. And, you know, just so you have an understanding. So if in the future you do want to get involved or run for office or whatever it is, at least you see, you know, how things are around here. So my aide can give you the information. If you're interested, we give it to your teacher, and then we organize like a field trip to come downtown.
Okay, we're definitely interested in that as well.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very kindly.
All right. All right, we go to public comments. Mr. Shelby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The Tampa City Council welcomes public comment at this time. 30 minutes have been set aside this morning for citizens speaking about matters that are not set for a public hearing. If you are here to speak on a matter that is set for a public hearing, you will have that opportunity later during today's meeting. Speakers addressing items on the agenda will be given preference before citizens speaking on non-agenda matters. Each speaker is given 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and it is requested that your comments are not directed personally to a council member or a staff member, but rather issues directed to the council as a body. City Council appreciates your cooperation in maintaining orderly conduct and proper decorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, City Council. My name is Martha Vila. I live at 3209 West Sitka Street. But I come to you this morning not as Martha Vila, but as a partner I had for 67 years, Hector Vila. Hector appeared before the City Council 14 years ago and told you the story of himself and his 6 brothers, yes, 6 other brothers that loved this country so much they were willing to give their lives in proof of it. For many years, a Vila was defending our country. On July the 2nd of 2005, these 3 Marines, 2 Army, and 2 Navy brothers were honored by you, and with the raising of a flag at 700 North Armenia Avenue, it became the Vila Brothers Park. Wow, what an honor. A true patriotic park of red swings and blue slides for this community, our city, and even pride for our state. Today, a beautiful black marble monument contributed by private donors stands with a picture and service of all the 7 brothers. It stands gallantly in the park. With growth of new houses and families surrounding the park in 2014, their voices represented by a restlessness, Sandy Sanchez, representing Armory Gardens Association, appeared before you, requested much-needed funds for improvement of the park. In 2017, 3 years later, you, the City Council, allotted funds in the amount of $300,000 for the bathrooms, water fountains, waste receptacles, and things that were very, very needed at the park. However, as of this day, and we are now in March of 2019, none of these improvements have been made, not even started. On April the 2nd, we're happy to learn that a ribbon-cutting ceremony will take place, and hopefully it will be a sign that the long-awaited improvements will finally start. We thank you for that, and we hope to see you there. Sorry. Oh, I stand before you today with the voice of many requesting that proper funds be specifically allocated for the completion of this one-of-a-kind patriotic park of red, white, and blue. A park for all to see and learn that freedom does not come free, and to teach generations to come or pass or visit the park that we should love and honor the sacrifices made by many for our freedom. A park worthy for all who stand before her in liberty to run and play. In conclusion, as Hector would have said to you, let's finish the park now Time has passed, and so have 5 of the 7 brothers. Only 2 remain now. Let's not wait any longer. My time is up. May I thank you for your attention and honor those who defended our country yesterday, today, and will tomorrow. Please hold tightly to the wonderful honor of what this park is all about and the glory of its flag. God bless the park, America, and all of us. Thank you.
Chair, can I ask a question? Ms. Vila?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Thank
how
you.
I hate to ask this, but how old are you? Because I heard a rumor about you the other day. How old are you now, ma'am?
I'm going to be 86.
You're going to be 86. I heard that you took an Uber or a Lyft to Susan Valdez's office.
Oh, yeah.
Was that the first time you've taken that?
No.
Oh, I hope my mother's listening, because I've been trying to convince her to take a Lyft different places, and to see someone who's 86 do it is a credit. So.
When Hector, we were at the VA hospital at the hospice unit for 114 days.
Mm-hmm.
I was there with him every day and night. I never left him.
Well,
That's why you never saw much of me. I was with him.
We saw you quite a bit the last time I was at the park when we had the
Yeah.
last event there.
Well,
so thanks for keeping this idea alive, and thanks for your
I will.
vigilance. And I know that Hector's looking down on you, as is the rest of his brothers, to applaud what you've been doing. Appreciate
Thank
it.
each of you very, very much.
Thank you.
Oh, we did put something on the so you can see it.
Yeah, it was up there. Thank you.
You can go ahead. I'll go after you. I was after them, but she can go.
Yeah, he was nice enough to let us go first.
Oh, no, let him go. He want to spread his hate, let him.
Okay.
And then I'll spread peace when you get done.
Stand in line like anybody else.
Stand in line.
Hey.
Hold it. All right, you're gonna have your opportunity, and, say what you got to say, and you have your opportunity next.
Say what I have important to say.
Okay.
Mentez not. It's interesting how the hate and the disrespect is spreaded equally amongst the citizens. Very interesting. A senior lady is speaking, and we say we can't call anyone by name, and the person disrespectfully, the citizens don't even come down here. Somebody disrespectfully cut her off. That's so disrespectful. That's what Rick Ross say. That's a rapper, if you don't know. It's so disrespectful. It's so hateful. The same person, we're not allowed to call any names, that tells someone else about kissing his butt. So disrespectful, because there's no accountability down here. He took after his mayor. That's who he took after. That called African women black bitches. And that called for the lynching of an African man. He took after his mayor. Don't represent District 5, but busy telling people to shut up, sit down, your time's up. Nonsense. And the citizenry, everyone here, constituents, don't even come down here, because y'all already scared them off with arrest. You got the police standing outside, police standing at the door. You need your name, your address just to say something. It's a hate of the general population and no accountability. And we see how they run it. We see how the mayor and Twitter sending out nasty, hateful, racial, racist messages, and then covers it up by saying someone hacked into his account. Who wants to hack into that clown's account? That's Bozo the Clown. What you want to hack into his account for? What we need is the person who represents our district, District 5, the district where I live, the district where most of the African population resides, the district that's affected by gentrification and other things that really means extermination, that really calls for genocide. That's what it calls for. We need a representative, not a token, not a disrespectful token that disrespect the citizenry. We need somebody to stand up and call that we're 26% of this population. We need someone to stand up and say we need 26% of this city's budget. That's what we need. We don't need a mayor that nobody up there, grown folks, can't put the mayor in check. Y'all got little kids in here and supposed to be setting an example, and nobody can say, hey man, you don't call black women bitches. You don't call for the lynching of an African man.
Thank you, sir.
For the record, for the living record, for the will, and for the living will, I am Sovereign Despot King Johnny Bernard Booth here in the capital and headquarters in Tampa Bay, Indian Village Kingdom, also with the franchise Tampa Bay. The young man that just came up here beforehand, he's spreading a lot of hate and BS that he does not know what he's talking about. The word race implies job, J-O-B. Ain't no black and white. He's spreading lies. I watched a black man choke a white woman out and watched a black woman laugh about it. You want to talk about hate? Don't sit up there and lie. Okay, over there in Australia, New Zealand, got all this going on. This is going on because Shiites and Sunnis won't return to their original Arab way. I'm talking about the Arab that sat next to my ancestor Abraham and named that well the same thing before wicked religion came out on the scene. Like the book of Ezekiel says that religion is a harlot tossing all of God's people left and right and bringing none of them in at all. Okay, this guy right here. Insane or evil? Look, mental health, I'm going to send you under judicial review, your whole darn system. Because we don't operate off of Sigmund L. Freud and let killers get off like him, like how you let Casey Anthony and then the Ramseys kill their child. We don't kill children here in America, and we don't allow it to slide. I don't give a darn what Britain and then false Africa that thought they took over Nubia thinks that their deal is. We don't need all of their black and white hate that the servants trying to take over their masters, trying to take over their bosses, trying to take over their governments. We know what the deal is. Over here, as far as your commercial mayors go, this what they're talking about right here. Y'all make sure y'all decide on what you want for your business, because that's what this is for your business. I handle your families. When you gain enough to come and finally ask for your accounts to be credited and stuff, I, the creditor, will credit you. But if you're going to keep playing the stubborn card and keep chasing Africa and Europeans' fraudulent money, which they're trying to charge you trafficking with, which it ain't going to get done that way because I never asked you to send any of those Federal Reserve notes here. So you know that thing happens on you. And Trump doesn't have a mental health issue. Cut that crap out.
Hi, good morning, Tampa City Council. My name is Diana Klein. I'm here today on behalf of our pre-born neighbors who are being murdered every week in Tampa under your watch and jurisdiction. It's time to end this bloodshed and punish those who are murdering babies in the womb. I have here an official diagram that is used in medical schools to train students on how to murder babies in the womb. They start out by taking a cannula, inserting it through the uterus, where they puncture the baby's life support, totally crush him. They rip his arms and legs off with a very high-powered vacuum. It's a very, very brutal death. Then they take a curette and they scrape out the rest of the remains. And then they have an assistant, the killer has an assistant that actually counts the body parts to make sure that all the baby is accounted for. And this is what they do. They have to piece the baby back together to make sure they got all the body parts. That's the brutality of what's happening in Tampa Over 200 times a week, babies are being murdered. And you, Tampa Council, you have a God-ordained duty to preserve justice and to punish evil, because Roe v. Wade is not a law. You have the jurisdiction to ignore Roe v. Wade, totally ignore it, and establish laws here in Tampa that will criminalize those who take part in murdering a baby in the womb. Because God's word tells us that the sentence against an evil deed, if it's not executed speedily, that the heart of the children of man is fully set to do evil. And that's what's happened in Tampa and across the country, is that 1 in 4 women have a heart fully set to murder their son or daughter in the womb. And we need to change this, because children are a gift from God. They need to be loved, nurtured, and protected, because love and protection begins in the womb. I welcome each of you to join me in front of the murder mills in Tampa to help rescue the preborn from a brutal death. There's lots of resources that women have available right here in Tampa where they are with child, they can get help. Come see for yourself how helpless the babies are and how you must interpose on their behalf. And you can find out more about the missionary work that I do at lovethepreborn.com. That's lovethepreborn.com. And please do that. Please take the time. Go to my website, look at my YouTube channel, see how I talk to children. These young children that were here earlier today, that you're inspiring them. We need young men and women to learn to become an abolitionist to abolish human abortion. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Isabel Tassi, and actually the letter I'm about to read I had sent to each individual council member back in November, and I never heard from anyone, so I decided to come in and read the letter because it raises 2 important issues that are very important to me, and I think it would also be very important to your constituents, and one of them I think is particularly important for any candidate who runs for office. Dear council member, I recently found out about City Ordinance 2003-255, Section 2-602, when political signs I had placed outside my fence were removed by the city and destroyed. I had no idea that this was not permitted. The ordinance seems to me to be a broad government overreach. Why shouldn't property owners be able to have political signs on the right-of-way in front of their property, say 60 days before an election, and remove it 2 weeks after an election? For those who have fences, placing signs in one's front yard vastly limits their exposure to the general public. Property owners generally maintain the right-of-way in front of their homes or businesses. I know that I, along with my neighbors, mow the lawn on my right-of-way, pull weeds, and also pick up trash that someone drops, cans, plastic bottles, etc., or papers that the wind blows onto the right-of-way. Why shouldn't a homeowner or property owner be able to have a political sign or a few in front of their home or business about 60 days before an election? For those of us without thousands of dollars for billboards or millions for TV ads, it's a way to advertise your candidate or cause and to exercise free speech rights. Can't an exception be carved out of this onerous ordinance during a political campaign prior to Election Day? I don't see what would be the harm in that. Second major issue I am requesting that the city not renew the contract with the University of Tampa to quote-unquote maintain Plant Park adjacent to the university. The city should maintain it and have control of coordinating dates for events at the park, not UT. As the creator of Tampa Bay Veg Fest in early 2010, I went looking for venues for the inaugural event to take place in October of 2010. I looked at city parks and chose Plant Park as my first option, a beautiful park on the river with shade trees and conveniently located. I contacted the person at UT to choose a date for the event. I chose one Saturday in the fall. I was told that date was not available. I chose another Saturday and was told that date was also not available. Then I asked for any Saturday in September, October, or November. Mind you, this was nearly an entire year before the event took place. I was told no dates are available because they had to keep those dates open for any university events that may occur. I realized that it was a sham. The university can deny usage to anyone so that they can, in essence, use the city park as their own private park. This is an outrage. This arrangement, which I was told was a 50-year contract which began sometime in the 1970s, and my guess is that it violated Florida's government in the Sunshine Laws, likely entered into a smoke-filled back room, needs to end. Once the 50-year contract is over, if not sooner, The
Ma'am,
maintenance.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Okay, I just wanted to finish my sentence.
Okay, who told you all of this? You kept saying I was told. But
Yeah, it was an individual at the University of Tampa when I called, because I was told that since the city does not maintain the park, I had to call the University of Tampa. So it's the individual that they had designated as the contact person to coordinate the date for an event to reserve the park. An employee there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, I'm CJ Roberts, President and CEO of the Tampa Bay History Center, and I just want to express our enthusiastic support for item 4, the renaming of Old Water Street to Water Street. That's the street that runs right in front of our building. And I'd also like to commend the SPP team. They have time and time again shown a real sensitivity to the history of our community, and that's really nice to see. So I thank them for that, and thank you for your consideration today.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to talk. My name is Bill Wickett. I work for the Tampa Bay Lightning and Amalie Arena. And like CJ and the History Center and a couple of others that will speak after me, I'm here to strongly support item number 4 in the renaming of Old Water Street to Water Street, again, on behalf of the Tampa Bay Lightning and Amalie Arena. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for your time. My name is Ron Mackin. I'm the general manager of the Tampa Marriott Waterside. And like the two previous gentlemen, I want to voice my support for item 4 of changing the name from Old Water Street to Water Street. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Michael Kilgore. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of the Columbia Restaurant Group, and on behalf of the Gonsmart family, we also like to support this name change. We have a cafe at the History Center, and while we really respect history, we also embrace change, and this change actually does both of those things. So thank you for your consideration.
All right, anyone else wish to speak during public comments? Seeing none, do we have any requests for the public, from the public for reconsideration of legislative matters? Seeing none, we can go to committee reports. Item number 4, Mr. Corn, would you read that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance by the City of Tampa renaming and designating the certain portion of Old Water Street extending from South Franklin Street to Channelside Drive within the City of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, so that it will be known as Water Street, repealing all ordinance in conflict, providing an effective date.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Corn, seconded by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we go to item number 6.
Chair, second reading and adoption will be held on April 18, 2019 at 9:30 a.m.
Okay, item number 6, Mr. Maniscalco, would you read that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, making revisions to the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 16, Parks and Recreation, amending Section 16-91, list of dedicated parks, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
We got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, seconded by Mr. Corn. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right.
Second reading and adoption will be held on April 18, 2019 at 9:30 a.m.
Okay, we go to committee reports. Public Safety Committee, Mr. Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, move items 7 through 13.
Second.
I got a motion from Mr. Miranda, seconded by Mr. Corn. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Park and Recreation, Mr. Maniscalco.
Yes, I move items 14 through 20.
Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, seconded by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Public Works, Mr. Maniscalco.
Yes, I move items 21 through 35.
Second.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, seconded by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, go to Finance Committee, Mr. Corn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move items 36 through 39.
Second.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Corn, seconded by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, sir.
And Councilman Cohen, if you wouldn't mind, for number 36, if you could just read the title in front of you.
Okay, the title says, I move a resolution being presented for second reading and adoption, a resolution amending the Rules of Procedure 1B1 governing meetings of the City Council of the City of Tampa, providing an effective date.
Thank you.
Okay.
Those have been moved.
All right, now we go, vote building and zoning, Mr. Viera.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, I move items 40 through 54.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion from Mr. Viera, seconded by Mr. Corn. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Go to Transportation Committee, Mr. Suarez.
Thank you, Chair. I move items 55 through 58 and items 62 through 64.
Second.
Okay, got a motion from Mr. Suarez, seconded by Mr. Corn. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item number 65.
Chair, I'd set a, move number 65, set as a public hearing on May 16, 2019 at 10:30 a.m.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Suarez, seconded by Mr. Corn. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And Chair, I'd like to open up items 66 through 70
Okay,
for public hearing.
66 through 70. All right, got a motion from Mr. Suarez, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item 9:30, public hearing, item number 66. Anyone here for that?
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Gina Grimes with the law firm of Hill Ward Henderson, representing the petitioner in this case. This is a comp plan amendment from R35 to CMU 35 on North A. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions from council? Anyone in the public wish to speak on item number 66?
Second.
Got a motion to close from Mr. Maniscalco, seconded by Mr. Corn. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Miranda, would you read item number 66?
66? Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Item number 66, file number PA 18-17. Ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. Ordinance amending the Tampa Comprehensive Plan future land use map for the property generally located at 4619 North A Street from residential 35 R35 to community mixed use 35 CMU 35, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability,
Second.
providing for an effective date.
Got a motion from Mr. Miranda, seconded by Mr. Vieira. All in favor of the motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Please recall your vote.
Motion carried unanimously with Kapeen being absent at vote.
All right, item 67 to 70. If you plan on speaking on any one of those items, 67 through 70, please stand and be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, item number 67.
Good morning, City Council. Ryan Manassi, Land Development Coordination. Items 67 and 68 are before you for second reading. Corrected site plans have been turned into the city clerk, and staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, any question from council? All right, anyone here for item 67?
Yes, council, I represented this case before you, and we met all of the criteria requested by the city and revised the site plans accordingly. Respectfully request your approval.
All right, anyone in the public wish to speak on item number 67?
Move to close.
Okay, got a motion from Mr. Miranda, seconded by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Vieira, would you read item number 67?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I move an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance approving a special use permit S2 for alcoholic beverage sales, restaurant consumption on premises only, and making lawful the sale of beverages regardless of alcoholic content, beer, wine, and liquor on that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 217 South Dale Mabry Highway, Tampa, Florida, is more particularly described in Section 3, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, repealing ordinance number 2007-98, providing an effective date, and to include the revisions
Got a motion,
specified.
Motion from Mr. Vieira, seconded by Mr. Miranda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously with Kapeen being absent at vote.
Thank you, council.
Okay. Item number 68. Anyone here for item number 68?
Good morning, Mr. Council. I'm here for item number 68. All items have been turned in accordingly and request approval.
Okay, any question for the petition? Anyone in the public wish to speak to on item number 68?
Move to close.
Okay. Got a motion to close from Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Corner. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Suarez, please read item number 68.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I present an ordinance for second reading and adoption, an ordinance approving a special use permit S2 for alcoholic beverage sales, restaurant, consumption on premises only, and making lawful the sale of beer and wine at or from that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 1001 North McDeal Avenue, Suite A, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in Section 3, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, repealing ordinance number 7529-A, providing an effective date.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Suarez, second by Mr. Miranda. Please record the vote.
Motion carried unanimously with Kapeen being absent at vote.
Okay, we go to item number 70. Anyone here for item number 70?
Jimmy Cook, Land Development Coordination. Staff has no objection to this ordinance.
Okay, any questions from the council? Anyone in the public wish to speak on item number 70?
Move to close.
Chair, there's a note for a continuance on here. Is that being honored, or is that?
That's on 69.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're on 68. Apologize.
Yeah, we on 70.
I think you're on 70. Okay, thank you.
Move to close.
Okay, we got a motion from Mr. Corn, seconded by Ms. Maniscalco. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Corn, would you read item number 7?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning a right-of-way alleyway located south of Keys Avenue, north of Warren Avenue, east of Ola Avenue, and west of Highland Avenue in Warren and Keys subdivision, a subdivision in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, the same being more fully described in section 1 hereof, subject to certain easement reservations, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, more particularly set forth herein, providing an effective date.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Corn, seconded by Mr. Miranda. Please record the vote.
Motion carried unanimously with Kapeen being absent at vote.
All right, let's go back to 69. Can we get a motion to continue it?
So move to continue, Mr. Chairman, to April 4th, 2019 at 9:30 in the morning.
Got a motion from Mr. Miranda, seconded by Ms. Maniscalco. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we got a little while before 10:30, so I'm gonna go to staff report. We want to go to staff report. So item number 74 on the staff report.
Chuck Weber, Water Department Director. This item is for the replacement of aging water mains and some mains that are undersized. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
No questions of mine, just the public to understand that this is necessary, and that last year alone, if I remember the figures that you and I talked about, there was 1,201 water line breaks in the city of Tampa just in 1 year.
Yes, and they are increasing.
Thank you for that wonderful comment.
Chair, if I could just ask a quick question. So the amount of money that you have for this construction, this is just to, how many water mains do you think that'll actually help alleviate of the number that Mr. Miranda just mentioned?
Well, we have approximately 2,200 miles of main in our pipe. This project represents replacing a little over 18 miles.
Okay.
So that represents 1% of our total distribution mains. And 1% is 1/100th, and the average life of our mains is 100 years.
Yeah.
So this represents the amount of mains we should be replacing every year in order to keep our infrastructure up to snuff.
It sounds like you were either incredibly prepared for that, or you have been answering this question for a long time.
Well, I haven't had a chance to answer it, but I have been studying it for a long time.
I gotcha. And you said 2,200 miles, and this is 18 miles? And you
Yes.
say that's 1%?
Yeah, roughly.
Is my math wrong? I was just going to say, if you're
No.
the engineer in charge, we're in trouble, because I don't think it's 1%.
No.
A little less than 1%.
Yeah, it doesn't represent all
Bless
the
you.
mains, but the project that this project is ramping up to where we are replacing roughly, 1% of our mains every year. We need to be headed towards that direction in order to maintain replacing the mains before they reach the end of their life.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chair.
And let me, along the same lines, the total amount needed, if you're holding on, it's not with an M, it's with a B. It's $3.2 billion, and if you take it out for 20 years, it comes out to $3.7 billion. And I want to thank you guys for starting.
Anyone else? Okay. Do we?
Move the resolution.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Cohen to move the resolution, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next, we move to item 75 for historic preservation staff.
Hello, Rachel Peterkin with the Legal Department on item 75. I just wanted to clarify that item 75 is a report on the Historic Preservation Commission's formal review of the existing Tampa Heights Historic District Guidelines fence standard. Action taken today on item 75 will impact all properties subject to the height standards in the district going forward, not just the property at 2723 North Morgan Street. Before I provide you with some sample motions, I wanted to give you a little bit of a brief summary of the history of this item. In response to City Council's request that the Historic Preservation Commission formally review the fence height standard, staff commenced the Section 27-264B City of Tampa Code process that governs changes to existing design guidelines. Specifically, staff sent a formal notice in December of the HPC's January 15, 2019 public meeting. The notice was sent by a U.S. mail to all property owners in the local Tampa Heights Historic District according to the latest ad valorem tax records. On January 15, 2019, public comments were received by the Historic Preservation Commission, and staff was directed per code to secure comments from the Architectural Review Commission. The Architectural Review Commission met March 6, 2019, and after hearing public comments, the ARC recommended that the design guidelines remain the same. On March 12, 2019, the Historic Preservation Commission met, and after receiving the ARC and public comments, unanimously adopted a motion whereby the HPC recommends to City Council that the existing fence standards, and I'm reading the motion, but I have a copy of it, and I'll give that to you as well. Their motion was that they recommend to City Council that the existing fence standards of the Tampa Heights design guidelines be upheld and no changes made based on outstanding support from the Tampa Heights community and staff of the Historic Preservation Division, who indicated that this particular feature contributes to the unique character of the Tampa Heights neighborhood. So I will go ahead and get you copies of the motions that were made by both the Historic Preservation Commission and the ARC. And also a copy of the Tampa Heights Design Guidelines, where I've taken the relevant fence standards section there so that you have that as well. And then to add to your letter, got some sample motions too. So today you may either uphold the Historic Preservation's recommendation of no change, or you can move to change the Tampa Heights Historic District Design Guidelines fence height standards so that it conforms with city codes. In other words, removing any special treatments for that part of the code that talks about fence heights. And I've provided you, as I said, with sample motions to either of those options, whichever should be your pleasure.
Let me ask you a question. Were any consideration given to grandfather those property owners that have already in violation of the fencing guideline? Because the last time you was here, you showed more than one that was in violation. Somebody showed some pictures of more than one. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, has those people been godfather in, did you give any consideration in that and start anew versus these people are not in compliance and therefore they have to meet these new, based on what we do here today?
Dennis Fernandez, Architectural Review and Historic Preservation Manager, to try to answer that. Essentially, there are a number of properties that are essentially non-compliant but are not in violation because those fences existed prior to the historic district being established. So we have photo documentation of when the district was established to determine what was going on at that point. To my knowledge, in working with the neighborhood, we've identified 10 properties that were out of compliance that actually erected fences without a certificate of appropriateness in the last 5 years. So of those 10, all 10 of those were put into violation, and some of those have come into compliance by relocating their fence. So I don't have any situations right now where we've essentially exempted somebody from the ordinances. We've been applying the ordinances and seeking compliance through the code enforcement process.
Let me ask one other final question, and that is, could you tell me how many property owners prior to Tampa Heights being designated this the historic preservation people procedures, how many property owners knew that once it became historic designation that they couldn't put a fence up over a certain height? Anyone was educated about that? Were they given rules or procedures? Every property owner in that community, were they given rules and procedures to say you cannot, because you're historic destination now, you cannot put a fence up over 6 feet tall or 4 feet tall? Were they given that information?
Yes, sir. There was a number of public meetings that occurred during the creation of the Tampa Heights Historic District. The guidelines were actually created by subcommittees of the neighborhood who, crafted the regulations, including the fences and other regulations that exist within the district. So I believe, the ones that were living in that particular area in 2000 would have been made aware of it, both through mailed notice and posting signs and neighborhood discussions, as well as media coverage. There was a number of articles in the paper about that as well. So specifically giving you a number, I'm not sure who was necessarily engaging in that process versus, just sort of letting others take control of it. But every designation in the city of Tampa goes through a public notice process, and it's required that there's a number of public meetings as well.
If I lived there and if I didn't attend the meeting, how would I be notified?
Well, you would have received a letter in accordance with the property appraiser's site. You would have received a number of letters. You would have received some letters through the Historic Preservation Commission, and then other letters when it was adopted at City Council, 2 additional letters. So there would have been mailed notice, and there would have been posted notice with signs throughout the neighborhood as well.
All right. Any other question from council?
Thank you for those questions. I don't see the need for it to stay the way it is. I really don't. That is a neighborhood that is in transition, and people need to protect their property. And those guidelines are for neighborhoods, maybe Hyde Park, but the Heights is in transition, and I feel that we should conform the fence height to code. But that's my feeling. I want to hear what the rest of the council has to say about that.
Mr. Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel that it should be like it is today, and I will vote to uphold. Let me tell you why. When you look at not only historical neighborhood, but you look at any neighborhood, and I'm going to start with West Tampa, and that means all of them. What I see more and more is that nobody speaks to each other. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody's got DirecTV or Dish TV or Spectrum or Frontier or whatever, or Roku. I don't want to leave anybody out. So once you start that, and I see more and more of this everywhere I go. You see a white fence, that's 6 foot tall plastic, you can't see through it. And it goes around the whole property. Built a house or buy a house, that's the first thing they do, put a big fence. And at the end of the day, that tells you something subconsciously. That's just me, maybe. That they don't want to be bothered with anything. They don't want to know where they live. They don't want anybody to come see them. However, that comes with problems. Problems that if there's somebody trying to do something illegally, they can hide back there and you can't see them. Problem for both the individuals who may be trying to do something and the police department is trying to find out what's going on. You can't see through a plastic fence. So everybody's in danger. If you had a chain link fence, you could see through it, but you can't see through a plastic fence. I'm not against privacy rights. I'm for privacy rights. But when you go to a neighborhood and you look like you're living in a jail cell, it's just much bigger than a jail cell. So it's a courtyard of a jail cell, and you can't get in, you can't get out. What kind of message are you saying to yourself? That's all I got to say, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Mr. Maniscalco?
Just a few comments, or a question. So should we move to uphold the HPC recommendation of no changes for the Tampa Heights design guideline? Tampa Heights being the oldest or one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city of Tampa historically, I think. So if we move to uphold, we leave it as is in terms of a historic area where anybody that wants to put a new fence has to abide by the existing current guidelines, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Getting the score? I saw your mic on that. No, sorry.
Yeah, there are a couple of issues here, and I think that you've explained some of them, and thank you, Chair, for the questions that you asked, because, you know, essentially, if you had already owned a home prior to 2000 when this came into force, you were a non-compliance with the particular ordinance that we passed concerning the historic preservation. So now you're non-conforming non-compliance, okay? So whenever you change something, then you have to come into compliance, like we do with every other issue. We've done this with signs several times over the years, and that's, you know, part of it. So when you move in or when you change, you know that there has to be, you know, you have to meet these new standards. Am I correct about that?
That is correct.
Okay, so for me, I don't have a problem with staying the way it is. I think that what we should do as a city is that those folks that do live in a historic district, they should be reminded on a yearly basis about the conditions in which they live under for any changes that might come up. Because we had 2 cases within, you know, a few weeks of each other in the same district for you know, different conditions in terms of what they were doing, but it was still about, you know, historic preservation. If we're going to have this document, then we should stick to it, I believe. And I don't think that we have to, I think that when we have a review hearing and the new council, whoever is joining our 3 colleagues that are reelected, you know, they're going to have to figure out whether or not they want to continue to do this. I just think it's a good thing to continue, because I believe, and you know, maybe you know the answer to this, when did the Hyde Park, you know, historic preservation come into play?
1988.
1988.
Yeah.
And at that time, from about 78 to about 88, that 10-year period, things started to change significantly, and they wanted to make sure that they preserved some of those homes that were already there. Because if I recall correctly, there were some folks that were going in and tearing down some of those bungalows. And then there was an effort made to save the rest of the district. I may be wrong about the specifics, but that's the essence of the reason why it got created. In this case, I don't think that we had that same catalyst, but I think that now it has become a neighborhood that people want to move into, and they want to keep that character. Most people do, not everyone. So I think that we should keep these regs in place so that we can go forward. Thank you.
Ms. Capeen.
Yes, real quick. That seems to be the consensus here. But I will tell you, when you talk about fences, one of the highest tax base areas is Culberth Isle and Culberth Bayou, and they are totally fenced in, totally. So it has nothing to do with the you know, the safety or it is privacy. We're talking about a fence, not to the front of the yard, we're talking to the side of the house. which is very different from the front of the yard. And I feel that it's overextension. I do believe it's overextending property rights, and that's the way I feel, but we'll see what happens.
You know, the thing that bothered me is that we are starting to become like other countries. Dictatorship. Dictator form of country. Because we want to mandate what you can do with your property. You invested $200,000, $300,000 for a piece of property, and you got some people sitting down here in a suit, in a dress, telling me I can't do this to my property. And they ain't paid one damn dime on a rent or mortgage. So we want to mandate people property rights from them. And this is what we're coming up with. Rules of procedure, rules and regulation to mandate you can't do this. You can't do that. You can have 2 cars in your driveway. Hell, you got 4 people living in the house, you're only gonna have 2. What is happening to this country and now this city? And we're talking about motivating and encouraging people to come live in Tampa. We're preaching great place to live. All the political rhetoric that I heard during the campaign, oh, great place. It's great until you live, move here, and find out the rules of procedure that you have been mandated to do certain things. And that's what is happening here with this issue we're dealing with today.
May I respond?
Hell, I don't care if you respond or not. A fence ain't gonna kill nobody. And if a person want to put up a fence, and I can understand the limitation on how tall it should be, but just because, I mean, with this historic preservation thing, you tell people what color house they got to paint, what kind of windows they got to have. I remember a guy, an attorney named Carl Hayes, living over in Seminole Heights, sued. I believe he sued the city over the same foolishness. And this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna get more lawsuits based on the same foolishness that we're dealing with today. These rules of procedure, mandating people what they can do and what they can't do. And I'm not gonna support this foolishness.
May I?
Yeah, you cut me off, so go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, go ahead. No, finish, I'm sorry, you didn't see me, no. I don't, no, you're not done, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to.
Train of thought now.
You know, that happens. Listen, you know, in 1995, we bought a property in Beach Park. And I had this issue. They told me, you have 2 front yards. One was on Royal Palm, one was on Azeel. Couldn't get any privacy. So I suggest to these people, now, unless you have a guideline on hedges, I put 8-foot hedges all around my house, all around my property, which gave me the privacy I needed plus the sound. So you're talking about not allowing fences, but you can put up hedges that will do the same effect as a fence. It keeps people out and it gives you the privacy. That's what I had to do because I could not get through to the city that please give me one or the other's got to be a backyard. No. So I went and put up 8-foot hedge all around the property. And I also put lattice for the hedge to grow on. And the lattice was 8 foot tall, all around the yard. That wasn't considered a fence.
All right, we have a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to uphold the HPC recommendation of no changes. I move to uphold the HPC's recommendation that no changes be made to the existing fence height standard of the Tampa Heights design guidelines.
All right, hope you never move to Tampa Heights. Got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Nay.
Motion carried with Reddick and Capeen voting no.
All right, item number 7.6.
Good morning, City Council. Jean Duncan with Transportation and Stormwater Services Department. Last time I was here, you'd asked for a little more information about the crash data on Kennedy to Columbus, on Himes Avenue, excuse me, from Kennedy to Columbus. I have a summary of that if you'd like to take a look at that.
Excuse me, thank you. When did that data come up? It's been here?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I got a call from ABC Action News and they told me that you told them that it was not available.
The information that was asked last time I was here was regarding why did we do the section of Himes from Kennedy to Columbus prior to other segments of the roadway. That decision was made in 2014, and the data we looked at to make that decision was from 2011 to 2013. ABC Action News contacted me to see if we had any data available to them since the roadway project has been constructed. And I said I didn't have any available to share with them at this time. So it's two different time frames that we're talking about.
Okay.
So I apologize if there was any confusion on that.
Do we have any data that's more current?
Data gets collected every single day through our law enforcement. We go to a database where that data gets entered into. And because of the time frame that it takes, there's about a 3-month lag between when an accident actually happens and when the data gets into the database system that we refer to. So there is some few months of information probably in that database, but it's not of any significance at this point, being that the improvement was just made recently. So this handout that I just provided is what was used to make the decision at the time to do the improvement on Himes between Kennedy and Columbus. And basically, one of the things that really got our attention was within that 2-year time frame, there were 7 incapacitating accidents, which is a very short time period to have that many severe injuries of that type. So it got our attention that we needed to do something to make the roadway safer. That particular section of Himes did not have a physical median separation as the other sections of Himes have. When you have a roadway that's a 5-lane section with no separated median, you have a lot of conflict points. And the more conflict points you have, obviously, the more accidents you're going to have.
Mr. Miranda.
Thank you, and I apologize for interrupting for a second,
Sure.
but as a maker of that motion, I believe I made that motion time back. If my mind recalls what I said Himes from Kennedy to Columbus. And then it was not Himes from Columbus to MLK. It was from Himes to Hillsborough, and we have a segment that's broken up. And I'm looking at the sums of the digits, and if I do that, it's very comparable. If you do 1-on-1, what was happened here somehow, and I may have to go look at the record, we changed it from Himes from Columbus Drive to MLK, and Himes North Boulevard, I guess it's Tampa Bay Boulevard, to Hillsborough. It was met as one continuous from Himes, Columbus Drive, north to Hillsborough, one segment. Because if you look at it, length of miles, one is 1.5 miles and the others are a mile each. So if you have that sum, it's 2 miles versus 1.5 miles. What we're looking at now, by the sums, is 1.5 to 1 and 1.5 to 1, which maybe I misinterpreted what I said, but I don't believe I did. And we talked about deaths. I see no deaths here that I know of that was brought up, and I don't want anybody to die. But I have seen cars jump over right in front of me and trucks right in front of me because that narrow strip that was done was very narrow with a little height of about 3 or 4 inches. Cars do it, everybody does it. In fact, I almost did it one day. I said, where am I going? I'm heading east on Gray, and when I get to Gray and the intersection of Himes, I couldn't go left. I could only turn right. And then show us how you're gonna make a left on anywhere between Gray and Kennedy Boulevard. So when you get to Kennedy Boulevard, you're gonna make a U-turn to head back where you came from. And those are the things that I believe are wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm never 100% perfect. No one is. But those are the things that I've noticed. And the neighbors have complained, I'm sure Mr. Maniscalco's got them, because I've got them, that they can't cross their own neighborhood. And I don't understand it, I really don't. So I think, and I'll say it publicly, I think it was done that way because if you do that where the stadium is at, you really get the heat. We ain't done that where the stadium is at. And I'm not anti-stadium. I didn't vote for stadiums to fund it. That doesn't mean I'm anti-stadium. So what I'm saying is we're treating one neighborhood totally different on one sector of it and the other sector when they were both the same and everybody was happy. I didn't hear no complaints from the neighbors before we started doing this. And if I recall history, I once asked a question and I asked, well, who started this? Well, the Department of Transportation wanted it. And later on, I hear, who started? Well, we asked for a grant. We got it from the Department of Transportation. So that set my mind with doubt. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, and just, I did make the motion to begin with, but you're absolutely correct. That was the intention, was exactly what you said, was, and if you look at the numbers, they're very comparable. You're absolutely right on there. I was adding them up. And yes, there are complaints. They even come, usually citywide does not get complaints from districts. That's very unusual. But we get them because it is impossible to maneuver without making a U-turn at Kennedy, without making a U-turn anywhere on there. And yes, they do go over the median. I don't know who engineered it, but it is very poor. And Councilman Miranda's right. It was not done where the stadium is. It was not done anywhere from Columbus to MLK because they wouldn't tolerate it. The stadium would have a holy fit. But these neighbors, which we do constantly, they put up with all the traffic from the stadium all the time, and now they can't even cross their streets. It's I'd like to see, I want to see data now, today. I want to see, since it's pulled every day, that's the data I want to see to compare the improvement that has been done and how much it has improved the accidents.
We can certainly pull whatever data is available, but unless you have a meaningful sample of data, you're not going to get a meaningful review of that data. But we're happy to pull whatever is available.
So the police don't have a meaningful sample of data. You said the police pull it every day, but they don't have a meaningful sample of data. What does that mean?
I just mean because the improvement is fairly new, to just look at several months of data is not going to.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is not. The situation is still normalizing as far as how drivers are negotiating on that road. And I did want to add, we are adding 4 locations where we're putting what we call a bump out, which is a wider, we're widening the area where the driver has to make the U-turn. So it'll be easier for the driver to make the U-turn. All of the U-turns were engineered where a standard vehicle can make that U-turn. The issue is because it is a tight corridor, without relocating the entire curb line, you have to hug that edge line to make your U-turn. You can't be in the middle or the far edge of the travel lane to make your U-turn. So we're happy to provide whatever data is available. The complaints we were getting besides the accidents that were happening was cut through traffic in the neighborhoods. We had a public meeting where, you know, we've got Oakford Park complaining about cut-through on their end, others complaining. So, you know, we try to come up with the best balanced solution, and we're happy to continue to make adjustments to this project to try to address the concerns of that everyone is having. Because that is our goal, is to have as much of a balanced solution as we can. We're never going to make everyone happy, but we're happy to continue to work. If you want to send us any of those complaints you're getting,
Okay.
we're happy to work with those folks
It's
and
not
see what we can do.
meaningful data, but it is meaningful data from, what is it, Cypress? Or Columbus Drive to Hillsborough Avenue. That's meaningful, because that's been in place for a very long time. So those are, I want to see these numbers and those numbers. That's what I'd like to see. And that it's not meaningful data because it's only been 7 months. 7 months is close, you know, when's meaningful data? A year. I think that's what you told ABC News. It's a year. You told them that you don't have the data because it's a year. You want to see if it's working or not in a year. So 7 months is some, I'd like to see that. Plus the other is it's been ongoing, so there's nothing there that could not be meaningful. So I'm gonna make a motion to that, but if anybody else wants to speak, I'll.
Yeah.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Well, first, let me say thank you for Himes, Martin Luther King to Hillsborough. I know it was recently paved, and many of the neighbors are grateful. I remember speaking to the Oakford Park Neighborhood Association maybe late 2015, early 2016, and a majority of the complaining was, when are you going to get Himes paved? And of course it was paved with this entire project. I remember going to several community meetings, one in the Barksdale Center at McFarland Park, showing the design for how Himes from Columbus to Kennedy were going to work out. Not that I receive a lot of complaints, but I see a lot of the social media comments, and folks, especially from Oakford Park, McFarland Park and whatnot, they appreciate the road being paved, but they're frustrated with not being able to, you know, like Gray Street, you can't go across. As Councilman Miranda said, you gotta go to Kennedy and make a U-turn. Last night I was at the Sons of Italy, and they mentioned again, some people coming south on Himes can't take a left onto Lemon Street. And these are folks that are in their 80s, you know, I mean, they're careful when they drive, but, you know, they're frustrated that they have to make a U-turn or go to the next street over to Lemon, you know, to get to the Sons of Italy Hall. That's what I hear. I understand that once you go north of Columbus, the medians were already in place, but you can still make, you know, left turns, right turns. Plus, there's also the stadium and where the Yankees play and all that, and then the park. You know, I don't know where we go from here. The project is completed, especially in that segment. I know I may have spoken to you or somebody in transportation when they said, you know, one of the highest crash areas is that section from Columbus to Kennedy on Himes, because it was wide open. The center median was just two faded lines. Now this makes it safer, but it's more frustrating. And what neighbors that live in that area tell me is that it just pushes traffic onto the streets. You know, you have the Gray Street light at Dale Mabry. That brings a lot of traffic. Now those folks have no opportunity except to go south on Himes to Kennedy, and that U-turn is not the easiest because that area is not so wide, and Kennedy is more heavily traveled. So I don't know, you know, looking at the data moving forward, I know this is new, and I'm looking at how they're broken down by 3-year segments. If the crashes have gone down, I haven't seen any accidents, but what I do see has been pointed out, folks driving right over these new center medians because they're not used to it or they don't see it. I see it. Maybe I just pay attention when I drive, but that's not everybody else. So I don't know where we go from here. I hope that I mean, these numbers should be reduced to close to zero because it's a significant improvement, but to the frustration of the neighborhood, it makes it hard to maneuver around that section.
Mr. Miranda.
Thank you, Chairman. Although this is more likely accurate, mathematically it's incorrect because it's based on accidents per mile. And when you're going to do something by mile, you have to look at both sides of the road. And I ask anyone to find me a house on the west side of Himes from Columbus Drive to Hillsborough Avenue. Can anybody name me a house on the west side of Columbus Drive? I mean of Himes? On the west side, there are no houses. So that means there's only one living between Himes and Del Mabry. So that means there are no cars crossing. So the application is correct, but the review is flawed. Not on you, but on the system that you have to work with. Because the population is certainly all on this side, and when you look at the numbers, yes, there's more, but it does not account for any traffic changing lanes on Himes between Columbus Drive and Hillsborough Avenue. And that's all I gotta say, because it has got to be, if it's based on that, you base it on population on west of Himes, and I'll guarantee you that these numbers do not come up the way they're here today, because it's only based on mileage, on 1.5 miles, 1 mile, and 1 mile, not based on population. So therefore, the numbers from this, not you, let me say that again, not you, not your department, but the way it's calculated is not done correctly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, anyone else?
Would you like to make a motion
No, go
for
on.
the numbers?
You know, it's gonna get to a nitty point, that we're gonna go numbers and apples and how many people.
I think we made the point.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the point is made that in my book, it's a waste of money what we've done, because it doesn't show anything at all. It's not based on fact, it's based on mileage of a length of a road, never on population. So if you have cattle in a farm, and you got a wall around the farm, no cattle's ever gonna cross the street. But if you have a little fence, just with barbed wire, guess what? The odds are that some cow's gonna cross the street, or some bull's gonna cross the street, or something's gonna cross the street. But if you have it completely fenced in, they can't get out. That's exactly what we done to the neighborhood.
Anything else, Ms. Nucky? Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, well, thank you. Item number 77.
Good morning, Council. Bob McDonough. I think we're almost at the end of a very long roadway. We'll have a couple of small items to bring back to City Council in the next few weeks to tidy it up, but the developer, I think, has appeased the Strauss with the Roseway plan. Our right-of-way people are poised to approve the right-of-way plan, and we will be going to a closing sometime in the next month. The Broadway series is closed, and so they will be available to be able to do construction.
This, since I made the motion, I ask him.
All right.
Okay, this was where, I have my paperwork here. This was brought to council for adoption. Second reading was August 22, first reading was August 8, 2013. That's almost 6 years ago. But what was 6 years ago was the rezoning request. I have here where this project was supposed to be finished in 14. In 2014, we are now in 2019, 5 years later, and we're still looking. This article was January 25, 2013. That's exactly a little over 6 years ago. The framework for LSC was anticipated to be finished by late 2014. In particular, the improvements in roadwork network to the Arrival Plaza, and ensure that they do. This was the Arrival Plaza. Did they give them the $1 million to?
They will
for
do
the
that.
plaza?
They will do that after commencement of construction. They have a written agreement with the Strauss. They're funding the improvements for the Arrival Plaza, and they are giving them an.
No project that we have approved in, that since I've been here, has
Yes.
taken this long, that I know of downtown.
Ms. Capine, I've been working on this since 2008,
Okay.
which is when the Strauss originally came up with the request for the city to change that roadway plan. And so the Strauss actually had an agreement with the city for 4 years to do that very thing. And then a board member from the Strauss, when the city said we did not have the money to fund these improvements, a board member of the Strauss came forward with this plan. And so a lot of this time has been spent appeasing the Strauss to make sure that the roadway plan would work for everyone.
Okay, we sold it for $4 million.
Excuse me? They're going to
The
put,
developer will pay the city $4 million. What did
they're
we
going to
sell
put
it for?
$4.5 million into escrow at the
Okay, into
closing.
escrow. The assessed value is $13 million today.
I'm sorry, where did you get that information from?
Okay, Bob Enriquez, property appraiser, McKenna's Place is, wow, okay.
You must be looking at the entire library parcel, because this parcel hasn't been created yet, so there'd be no way for them to put an assessment on it.
Okay, so we took out 1.1 acres. Okay, it's an escrow, so the city has not got, we have not received our money.
We haven't closed on the land yet.
We haven't closed on the land, but we made the improvements to the street.
We have made some improvements. They are going to make more improvements.
At the cost of the taxpayer. And it has changed hands. It changed hands from the original. Somebody made money on this already. And the city, the taxpayer, still is waiting for their money. You know? I remember in 2013, when I came here on August the 8th. And I left my husband in the hospital, who had just been told that he had cancer, because he insisted, because he knew how I felt about this. And I was right. I was right to vote against it. I got beaten up because I didn't have vision. And here we are, 6 years later. We still don't have a tower.
Ms. Capine, if you recall, this particular piece of property was tied up in litigation for 2.5 years, which prevented them from moving forward.
But they sold it.
Excuse me?
It was sold. It changed hands.
Actually, they took on another partner.
Because I remember it coming back to us to hold off on collecting our funds so that they can make more money while the taxpayer is still waiting. And guess what? The rents in downtown Tampa are coming down because it's overheated. And now this is, one of the things that they're having a problem with is getting their financing, and the city's gonna help them with that. The taxpayer's waiting for their money, and the city's gonna help them get their financing.
Says who, Ms. Capine?
Because
There has been no request to the city of Tampa to help anybody with financing.
that might not be a request, but why haven't they gotten their financing? Where's the financing? Why hasn't it happened?
I don't know if they have or not. You do, Ms. Capine? Because I do not know.
I do not know it, but I know that it hasn't started, and it's 6 years later.
Ms. Capine, they're not allowed to start during the Broadway series. The Broadway series is now closed. They are prepared to close and start on the work.
How many Broadway series in 6 years were there?
4.
I mean, yes, exactly.
And prevented by 2.5 of them by a lawsuit.
All I hear is excuses about this property. And I'll tell you what, whatever comes before us now, I'm not voting for it. We waited 6 years. I will wait, and I will have the next council look at it. I think that some fresh eyes need to be on this thing, because I, for one, will not vote on it. And this was a huge error to put this building on 1.1 acres. But anyway, thank you for your report. Anything else?
All right, anyone else from council got any questions or comment? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to 10:30.
Mr. Chairman, did you want to handle item 78 at this point? Might as well just get that off the agenda.
Chair, I'd like to request a continuance for item 78 to April 4th under staff report.
Second. All right, got a motion from Mr. Suarez, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And Chair, I'd like to open up items, I think it's 71 through 73.
Okay, got a motion from Mr. Suarez, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, if you plan on speaking on item 71 or 72, please stand to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth,
Item number 71.
Thank you, Rebecca Kurt, Legal Department. We are here today on a hearing pursuant to City of Tampa Code Section 27-318C for consideration of suspension for cause of an alcoholic beverage permit. This is a continued public hearing. If City Council will recall, at the last hearing, City Council made a motion that passed finding that under Section 27-318C had been violated for this particular alcoholic beverage permit, specifically that the conditions, limitations, and restrictions imposed at the time of approval identified by staff had been violated. The City Council then continued the hearing to today's date to consider the penalty phase. City Council, because this would be the first violation that has been found formally by City Council, has the ability to suspend up to 30 days. That includes the ability not to suspend at all. So there can be no suspension or a suspension up to 30 days. There are 3 criteria that City Council is required under the code to make that decision on. It is the gravity of the violation, any actions taken by the violator to correct the violation, and any previous violations committed by the violator. And I'm going to pass out a blown-up copy of that so it's very easy for City Council to reference. As part of the public hearing, City Council had requested an update from city staff as to what has transpired in the last 30 days. We have Catherine Coyle, zoning administrator, who's here to speak to that, as well as Captain Neal from the perspective of the Tampa Police Department. It is a public hearing, so I do suggest that you hear from both the violator and then open it up for your typical 3 minutes apiece for the public. Thank you.
Good morning, Council. Catherine Coyle, Planning and Development Zoning Administrator for the city. What Mr. Shelby has handed out to you, there's a 1-page document that I put together for you, just to make it quick. A quick synopsis. At the top is the item from today's agenda. The next item is the motion that you made, which Ms. Kurt referenced. The next item is the actual snapshot from the site plan, from the noise mitigation plan, specifically with the outside language for the foam panels and the self-contained individual controls. The next item on the list is March 20th, 2019, the site inspection that I performed with the Chief Building Inspector, Troy Chavez. I did include a few pictures that I took as well. We walked the site a couple weeks ago and pointed out all the issues with the 2 items of the self-controlled individualized controls for speakers and the foam panels. These are pictures from yesterday. They went ahead and sculpted the foam panels to the gate, which was missing prior to that. You can see on the inside all the foam panels are green. This is under the bar cabana. There is 1 speaker remaining on the site, and there is an individualized control just on the inside of this wall for the bar. But there is only 1 speaker on the site that we could see. This is the northern wall of the building where there used to be speakers mounted. All of those have been removed. That's a fan there. And then this is the back wall to the west. On the back side of this wall, and they painted it black for uniformity, and you can see the green panels kind of on this side. These are fans. On the back side of this wooden solid fence wall, they've lined it with panels, the foam panels as well. The only places where there were openings that I could see from the foam panels, because they were very uniform, was essentially where there are handholds for the gate so you could actually open it. Same with the outside gate towards Tyler. And then little gaps at the bottom here and there where there's just like an inch or two, just so it doesn't actually hit the ground and get water damage. The site observations that we made was the surrounding perimeter of the outside patio is lined with foam panels placed in between the concrete block pillars, which appear to be painted in a medium dark green on the internal face and black on the external face. It's screened with podocarpus shrubs on the outside as well. And there's this 1 self-contained individual control for the 1 remaining speaker, which is mounted under the bar's cabana canopy. And again, Ms. Kurt gave you the blown-up version of it. I included it in this document for ease of reference as well. Section 27318. I put in bold italics the up to 30 days for the first offense. So it's 0 to 30, and then the 3 criteria that you consider for your decision. And I'm available for any questions.
There's no leeway for a financial fine?
No.
Okay. So it's 0 or 30?
0 to 30. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and anything in between.
Okay, I want to hear what their improvements are.
Could I just ask one question? Ms. Coyle, I noticed on the first photograph you have that the fence is beveled, or beveled? I don't know if beveled is the right word, but it's in a V there. Is there any particular reason why?
That is actually the shape of the wrought iron.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just
So they
curious
just
about that. I know
sculpted
it.
it, yeah.
I don't think it's going to affect anything.
They sculpted it to the frame.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious about that. Thank you.
All right, petition, applicant.
Good morning, Council. Catherine O'Donnelly, 2002 West Cleveland Street, here on behalf of Franklin Manor. And first of all, we want to express our sincere appreciation again that we were provided this 30-day window to continue working with the city staff and make sure that we're all on the same page. That was very much the goal in moving forward. And we thought we were there last time, but there were a couple of tweaks necessary, and through multiple site inspections and a lot of communication, we are very pleased to be here today and tell you that we are indeed on the same page. I have here co-counsel Eric Koenig. He is going to walk through some photos of the site. He's been out there just about every single day, and so I think he's in a good position to speak a little bit more to the current status.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Eric Koenig from Trenum Law. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. One is the current status. 2, to address the council's question about is anything being done above and beyond what's required under the site plan? And then lastly, the actions that have been taken for consideration in the punishment phase. For start, I have some documents I'd like to evidence, and I have enough copy for everyone. Here's a view of what these areas look like now, that the idea is there are these cabanas that will ultimately be built and specified and permitted, under which there'll be a speaker individually controlled. And as far as the timeline has been concerned, approximately 1 week after the last hearing, there was an inspection of the property with the city of Tampa, and it was determined that the cabanas that the Franklin Manor had paid to have built, that the person who built those cabanas had advised that these are to be treated as furniture. They don't need to be permitted because they are not bolted down, they are readily movable. And the building department from the city of Tampa said, I disagree. This looks like something that needs to be permitted. And out of respect for the city, within the next 24, 48 hours, the cabanas started coming down, and they are completely down. And they're now in the process that all of the drawings have been done, and the permitting phase will start either by tomorrow or early next week. And the cabanas will be identical to what's at Remedy. So they've already been approved, identical ones approved by the city of Tampa. So we feel optimistic those will go through as well. And then the next page, you'll see that the foam itself has been painted to match the surrounding conditions. And this was something done above and beyond what would have been required under the site plan, that the foam itself is a bright purple pink. And you can see as you flip through that these have been painted either green or black. And you'll also notice right here that the foam doesn't just track the wrought iron. The foam actually tracks across the columns. So it's even higher than what is required under the special use permit. And then the last page of your handout shows you the thickness of the foam, that this is double thickness on either side, and the pre-existing foam wasn't moved or taken down. So it's foam and foam and foam, running through that. And again, this was something that was above and beyond what was required under merely decorative foam. They basically purchased some of the thickest foam you could buy and installed it. In addition, there's a hedge that you can see down in that last section. They're allowing the hedge now to grow up and over the foam to act as an additional buffer. Before that was being trimmed, that was being pruned, and now it's being allowed to grow even more so. Franklin Manor canceled their St. Patrick's Day party, which is typically an outdoor block party, once again, just to show that they're being responsible. And lastly, they installed foam behind the only existing speaker to act once again as another buffer. And really, all of these things were meant to show that the Franklin Manor is being responsible and it's taking actions above and beyond what is required. As far as the punishment phase is concerned, as you all are aware, that you are to consider the gravity of the violation, the actions taken to correct, and the previous violations. As there have been no previous violations before you, and the actions taken by the Franklin Manor at great expense. They built up these cabanas only to take them down instead of arguing over whose right is this furniture, is it a fixture. They took everything down out of respect for the city, and they're going to go through the permitting process to build these things again. There have been no noise violations. There haven't even been any noise complaints. And they prove that they can be responsible. And based on that, we respectfully request that you do not issue any suspension, that they would like to continue to act responsibly, to be good neighbors, and try to recoup some of the money they've been spending in making these modifications moving forward to be a good neighbor. Thank you for your time.
All right. You had mentioned law enforcement was going to speak, so you want to speak at this time?
Good morning, Council. Captain Neal, DPD. I can confirm that there have not been any calls for service or noise or that kind of nuisance that had been there historically. And there are, with that said, no violations to go with that. That's all.
Excuse me. Did you say you can't confirm?
I can confirm.
You can confirm.
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that I heard you right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No call for service. Okay.
Thank you. What is the Ms. Coyle? What's the recommendation of staff?
Catherine Coyle, Planning and Development again. We generally recommend the standard 30 days, but it is up to council based on the 3 criteria.
Okay. All right. Anyone from the public wish to speak on item number 71?
Yes. Good morning. My name is Ethan Loeb. I was before you about a month ago where I shared with you a lot of what I would call the salacious emails that you had the opportunity to review. There was an article this morning published in the Tampa Bay Business Journal recapping what happened a month ago. Some of you fine folks were quoted. Councilman Cohen, you were quoted as saying that this was a willful noncompliance. Councilman Miranda, your references to the Godfather no longer being in this town, that was also quoted. That Business Journal article is out for everybody in this town to see. And we are at a stage right now where there has to be some message sent to the general business community that if you are in violation of the code, which they were, and it took them a month or a year and a half to do something about it, and they only did it because they were forced to come before you, there needs to be some message, whether it's 30 days, whether it's a day, whether it is something. This council needs to send a message to business owners everywhere that if you are not going to follow the rules, if you are going to be cited by the police for violating the ordinance time and again and again and again, that will not be tolerated in this town. If you don't, if you allow these folks to get away with this without any punishment at all, you are sending a very clear message to this community that it is okay to come in after you have been told by city staff to come into compliance, that you can thumb your nose at staff time and again, and then come in afterwards and say, look at what we've done. Please don't hold us responsible. That's not how I was raised as a kid. My mom told me if you do something wrong, there's going to be a punishment for it. Y'all should do the same thing. I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, let's continue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I agree. There was a violation, and we were very generous in offering the 30 days for correction. That was very generous of this council. However, I feel that that they did violate, and that we can't have that. We can't have people taking a year and a half to correct what code enforcement has said needs to be corrected.
But before you get too far along,
Yes.
let's see if anybody else, because we were going to public comment.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Yeah.
That was public comment.
Right,
Okay,
so
sorry.
anyone else in the public wish to speak on item number 71? All right, this is your opportunity now. Anyone else? I'm not going to say, ask again.
I'd like to take the time for David Anderson and Chris Anderson too, please.
Wait. Yep, you know, counsel?
Yes, sir.
Ms. O'Donnell, can you come up? Is this person related in any way or a member of their?
Yes.
Okay,
This is
then we
the
just want to know for
Franklin
time
Manor.
purposes, you're not a member of the public, so we want you to know that, so as we
Oh, I
go
didn't know how it
forward.
worked.
And I appreciate the fact that you make sure that that happens, so we don't have to ask this question, okay? Thank you.
So is he, so he's gonna be part of the
Thank you,
rebuttal?
Councilman.
He's gonna be part of the rebuttal? That's what I'm.
I think it appears that we may not have any other members from the public, so I think it's fine if you would like to consider this
Rebuttal?
comment as part of the rebuttal.
All right, all right, we'll do that.
Thank you for clarifying.
So you have this 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you.
Start the clock.
Good morning, Councilman. I wasn't here last time. First of all, I want to apologize. I was
Please state your name.
Lanfranco Pescante, one of the owners and founder of Franklin Manor and Nocturnal Group. I wasn't here last time. I was actually on site. We had a visit from opposing counsel for the actual lawsuit. When we took Franklin Manor, that entire block was pretty much deserted. And we really risked our entire life into doing that with me and David Anderson. We put our entire life savings. We took bad loans. We did everything we kind of had to do that. I heard a lot of things. I actually watched all you guys. I heard every comment, took them very seriously. I've never been in trouble with the law. I have many, many police officers, Army, friends. Just a police officer outside. He worked at Franklin Manor many times. When I was watching you guys and heard all the comments, I heard some timelines and some things that didn't really match with anything that really happened. You know, we were approved as Franklin Manor as it was, okay? Zoning was there, building was there, everybody was there. They walked the space, they came on site, they approved us, and they let us open for a year and a half. They were all there. The mayor was there cutting the ribbon. I opened this business in a deserted block when it didn't matter, and I was there. I took the chance in that block, okay? Now, after, there's many flourishing businesses. There's a tower. I have 3 more businesses in the same block, and it's a beautiful neighborhood that's coming around. Now, the building across, 915, that's currently suing us, they picked us as Osteria, the Italian restaurant across, as the anchor tenant of their building because of the success of Franklin Manor. That is a fact. So we had all these buildings. Again, timeline. We opened a year and a half later, we got the first letter. We were shocked about the letter because we were approved by this entire, by the zoning, by the building, everything was running properly. So yes, I was extremely frustrated. Emails went around. I'm embarrassed about them. I heard your comments. Very, very seriously. I took them. That's not how I act, and that's not how I'll never act again. You made a comment, Ms. Capon, about, you learned in junior high not to write things down. Well, maybe I learned at the last meetings not to write things down. So that was where I came from that. Interpretation. You made a comment, Mr. Miranda, talking about how there's no interpretation on this. They should do it for every other business owner that comes along. We saw some things and it talked about foam. What is foam? What type of foam is it? Well, how thick is it? How is it acoustic block? There's a million types of foams. Again, we had Pope foam on there. It was on there, and they saw it. They can sit here and say they didn't see it, but it was there, and they let us run it for 1.5 years on that foam. So again, speakers. On the same right side on the site plan, they talked about speakers. They didn't specify what speakers. They didn't specify how big they were on anything about that. They didn't talk about any of that. So we ran thinking that we were doing the right thing for that long. Then we received letters, and then it went on, and then I hired a lawyer because I am not expert to be able to talk about that. And I had a lawyer ever since trying to deal with it. When I met with you guys alone, some of you guys, and I wanted to meet every one of you guys, you asked, how can we help you as a business owner to bring more businesses? And one of my main things is a little more support to hospitality people, especially young ones like us. We don't come from money, me and Dave. We came from nothing. I built that business straight from nothing with having nothing. So a little more support for hospitality ones, a little more clarity when you do have these site plans so we can do the right thing to follow. Yeah, and lastly, I just want to ask for, I guess, their consideration once again, because I do have 50 people that do work there, and they love Franklin Manor and a big, many more businesses to come. So thank you.
Thank you. In the last 30 seconds or so, I just want to at least go down the criteria for you to consider, and I agree with Mr. Loeb that something like this happens, a message needs to be sent. And my mom taught me there's still something to be said about rehabilitation. That here, if we did nothing or did an okay job at fixing something, then the penalty should be assessed in full. The work has been completely corrected. There's even a question whether we were in violation in the eyes of the city for over 1 year, and therefore we ask that no punishment be meted out and allow them to continue moving forward with these corrective actions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, well, the reporter time is up. Ms. Curry, you want to say something before we go to the
Thank
discussion?
you, Council. I did pass out 2 sample motions. One is for no suspension, one is for a suspension up to a total of 30 days. Just to recap, City Council has found a violation, so if another violation comes before you, the penalty phase would be up to 60 days. It escalates up to a possible revocation. So the first step was to find the violation. And the other thing that I did want to note, if a suspension is found, we typically ask for at least 7 days before it starts, both to allow us to notify the state and to provide notice onto the property, and that also does allow them to make some plans. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Suarez.
Oh, no, she answered my question.
Okay, Ms. Coupine, Mr. Maniscalco?
You know, I think a lot of has been invested in bringing this into compliance, and changes have been made that have been significant from what I've seen in the photos from before and after. I think the business owners have, although it took, what, 1.5 years, whatever it is, you know, I look at it as what is the point of suspending the alcoholic beverage permit at this point, since they've made a significant investment. You know, changes have been met, their lessons have been learned, whatever you want to call it, but what's it going to do at this point, you know, suspending the alcoholic beverage? That's just my thought.
All right, Mr. Miranda?
Thank you, Chairman. Statements were made, but what got me the most is that the landlord sent him an email, and they blew him away also. They moved that person like, who's he? And that's what I'm saying. There's something wrong somewhere that, and I said, everything that was said, I said. I questioned the cities, what is foam? Mm-hmm. Is it 1/4 of an inch? Is it 1/8 of an inch? Is it 2 feet? I don't know. Is it right? The violation occurred when success became your failure. When the neighbors started complaining about the noise. And you know what? They were blowing off also. Am I right or wrong? I'm not asking you, just think about it. No one, if the city was wrong, even if my parents were telling me something wrong, and I kept doing what I was doing, In my mind, they're right, because they were my parents. No matter what government it is, find out as you go along. Don't wait a year and a half to say, you know what, I didn't know what the rules were. When you got the first one, find out what they were. So I understand that. We're all grown ups. We're not kids playing at Cascade Park anymore. So we had to know what was going on to that point. You blew the city off. You blew the landlord off. Those are the things that bother me. The landlord more than the city. You disrespected whoever gave you that opportunity to go there. That's what bothers me the most. But I'm open to suggestions from this council, and this will be, after this one, the next one is your second violation. So if you happen to get off easy, I'm going to tell you now, the second one is up to 60 days. No business can be closed for 60 days and succeed. So just think of that. I'm not your father telling you what you do. I'm just your counselor advising you what could happen and maybe will happen if you have a second violation. So beware of the facts, beware of the unknown, be respectful to others as they are to you, and things will work out. You got a successful business, and you'll have other businesses there that you talked about. So think about yourself first, and think what you may or may not be doing to somebody else. Even if you're doing something right and you're accused of it, at least go talk to them. You think we like to hear everything here? You think the parties that come here like to hear what we say? No. But there's an understanding on both sides that come to a conclusion of reasonableness that you can solve a problem. And that's what life is all about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, we hear a lot about the entrepreneurship that came into getting this enterprise up, and that's not at play. I think we're all in agreement that this is a truly successful enterprise and endeavor that took, you know, the real word. You check up entrepreneurship in the dictionary, and you're probably going to find this establishment there. So I don't think that is at play here at all. What saddens me is that it took all this trouble and time for us to get here, for some movement for the community and for some cooperation and some remedies for the community. That's why we're here, is because we have gone to these lengths. When I hear statements made, I think of the other side. When I hear that St. Patrick's Day event was canceled, yes, that costs the business significant money, but think about the real victims, or one of the real victims that we don't hear about, the employees. When I hear about remedies taken at great expense, disproportionately, that expense is also borne by the employees. We all know that. I don't think that's something in dispute. I do think that some sort of a formal suspension is in order. The level of it, I think, is something that's going to be obviously in dialogue, but I think that something is certainly in order given the gravity of the issues that we're dealing with here.
Mr. Cohen.
Thank you. One of the reasons that I know I wanted 30 days to consider this was so that the emotion from the last hearing could die down a little bit and we would have a chance to see what remedial measures have been taken. But that said, I do agree with what I think I'm hearing as the emerging sentiment up here, which is that this does have to have a consequence. We cannot do nothing as a result of this matter. And I think that where I'm hearing everyone going is what is the length of the suspension that would be reasonable. We don't want to put people out of business, and we don't want people to be unable to pay their rent or their mortgage as a result of a loss of income. But at the same time, we have to send a message that our rules have to be followed and our staff and our processes have to be respected. So my own sense is that we need to have a suspension. It should not be 30 days, but it needs to be something.
Mr. Soare.
Thank you, Chair. You know, it's March Madness, and the basketball teams are going to line up today. And the thing that I was thinking about when some of the folks that were talking was snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. But I reversed it. It's snatching victory from the jaws of, defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, I will tell you, after everything that we heard in the first hearing and everything that we heard today near the end here, there is no doubt we have to have some amount of time on there. I know no one has come up with a time frame, and in my mind, I think that we have to look at between 5 and 15 days at the most. I have for me, I would say 10 days, and so that we understand and people understand that this needs to be taken care of. I mean, it wasn't as if there weren't a lot of opportunities out there. And even Mr. Loeb, who's representing one of the clients against this, had no comment about what they put into it now, which is a good thing. That's a great thing, that the amount of money and time and effort has been put into it, and the cost borne would have been spread out over a course of a year and a half had it been done the first time. It would have been, and it would have been a lot bigger, less of a hit on them financially. But we have to send a signal that when we put these rules in place, that they have to come forward. As Ms. Kurt said, this is already considered a first violation. Violation itself, even if you don't have a party on St. Patrick's Day, I'm sure they were open. I bet they were selling alcohol then. I'm sure that they made some money. I would hope they did. So I think that if nothing else, I think the minimum should be at least 10 days. That's my own opinion about that. Thank you, Chair.
I agree with majority of my colleagues here. Something need to be done. I do agree. Waiting for this extended period of time and these problems still didn't get resolved. We have to send some type of message. And I do agree with my colleague, Mr. Suarez, that 10 days I think is fair enough. 30, I think would be too much for a business that's trying to maintain employees, because I'm worried about the employees. They're not getting paid. And the business is going to lose money, but these employees are not getting paid, and they are not making the maximum salary. I'm pretty sure. And a lot of it probably come from tips. So I will support 10 days, and Ms. Capine, I know you had a motion, and so I will yield to you for your motion.
Thank you. Yes, sir. The employees is a very important factor, and what I'm reading here, the business will be open, it's just the sale of alcoholic beverages will not be allowed. And I was thinking 1 week, but I tend to agree with the 10 days. I would make a motion that we suspend alcoholic beverage for 10 days. What else? I need to read it like this.
I'm just saying for the purposes.
Based on the criteria contained in section 27-318C, City Council moves to suspend the AB permit for property located at 912, 914 North Franklin Street for 10 days, such suspension beginning on 7 days from today, which would be the 28th.
I calculated that we'd say March 29th at 7 a.m.
March 29th.
Otherwise, if you start on the day before, it's at 3 a.m. It's weird to do that. So March 29th at 7 a.m. 10 days from that would be April 8th at 3 a.m., which is the continuation of the 7th, to wrap the alcohol hours.
Let's start on the Monday, the following Monday.
The following Monday is the
What
1st.
date is that? Perfect.
So just kidding? I'm just kidding. April
No.
Fool's Day, sorry.
No.
So then April 1st at 7 a.m.
April 1st at 7 a.m. That's my motion.
Let me count the days
For
really
10
quick.
days.
All right, good.
Chairman, we compared this to us growing up and being, somewhat schooled by our parents and our peers and our teachers and our neighbors, and the time you got home, you knew what was coming. 'Cause everybody knew it by the time you got home. And in my family, I'm sure in yours also. So I'm not opposed to 10 days, but when you're in a business, you like to have a calendar, and the calendar will fall in the middle of something. So I would like to make a substitute motion for 7 days, from a Monday to a Sunday, so that you talked about the employees, so they at least know that they're coming back to work. When you start doing this, the public is not only the ones that are gonna get hurt, is the employees that work there that are gonna get hurt, that are gonna go to a half a week. So when they come back, they're only gonna get paid a half a week's salary. And they all have things to do, bills to pay like the rest of us. Not only do they have to pay rent and car insurance and automobile and so forth and food, but, and I'm not opposed to the 10 days, but I would like for you to consider 7 days, because they've at least now understood, in my mind anyway, that when you were growing up and your parents gave you an ultimatum, that was the ultimatum. And I'm not saying we're the parents of all these, I'm saying now that they know that the next one coming is not gonna be what it is in the first one. It's up to 60 days, not 30. And they have made the improvements, just like in code enforcement. The fines are higher, and we wear them down because we want things to be done right. Not money. It's about doing it right the first time. So maybe they'll learn a lesson, and I hope they have. I think they have, but I'd like to make a substitute motion for 7 days, because the employees are the ones that are gonna get worse hurt than the business.
You know, I appreciate that, because that's where I was heading. That's, one of the reasons I moved it to April 1st was so that it would be 1 weekend, not 2 weekends. Because if it was on the 29th, it would be 2 weekends. Yes, I know that.
Yes, so the, just for council's
But-
reference, April 1st at 7 a.m. Would end also April 8th at 3 a.m. for a 7-day.
For a 7-day.
Correct, so that would stop, it would be that Monday to Monday. Just so you know, for
Yeah,
the record.
same. So it would be the same weekend, okay. And as opposed to middle of the week. I tend to, my concern is the employees also. I think that we need to be more generous to the employees, but we do have to send the message. So I will agree to your,
Accept the
what do I need
amendment
to
then?
do? Accept your
Substitute
substitute?
motion. Accept the amendment.
Accept your
For the 7
substitute
days.
motion for 7 days.
As a seconder, do
Yeah.
I have to accept that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, we have a substitute motion from Mr. Miranda, and it was approved by the maker of the original motion, Ms. Capeen, and seconded by the original motion of the
Do I need to
second.
read this again?
Well,
I'm sorry.
does it need to be read again for clarity purposes, or are you satisfied, Ms. Kurt?
Becca Kurt, I think that you read it and then you have amended it, so I think it's clear.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and so we have a substitute motion. All those in favor of the substitute motion?
Before you do that, I apologize for interrupting. They're closed on Mondays, anyway.
You know, we can go through this for the next.
I just made a comment.
hour.
You're really giving them a 6-day suspension. I know it may not mean anything, but I do think it's important to place that. I started to think about it because most restaurants are closed on Mondays, and I thought about it. And I said, wait a minute. I think that we are only giving them a 6-day suspension.
I mean, if I may, that's a good point, Mr.
Yeah.
Suarez. I'm laughing at myself because on my other job, I judge horse racing. Right. And when we suspend a rider, we suspend them for calendar days.
Right.
Not riding days. So
Right.
since we only race on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday,
Yeah.
if I suspend you on a Sunday, guess what? You're not getting a full, you're only gonna lose 3 days out of
Right.
the 7. So I'm not.
It's like when they suspend a
It's not-
baseball pitcher, for
right.
5 days. We know that. So
Same thing.
my suggestion, and I apologize for interrupting. I just thought about it. I would suggest that we start on the 2nd through the 9th, as opposed to doing it the
Tuesday to
other
Tuesday.
way. If I could, I apologize for that, but I think that that's only fair to make it a real 7 days.
Tuesday.
I accept the substitute.
You accept it, I accept it, we're good.
Yeah.
All right, we
Let's make sure we get the dates right,
Are
though.
are we okay?
Do you have the dates, clerk?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Moves the Monday.
Monday, it moves a Monday over,
Yeah,
right?
the second week, there's another Monday
Then just
there,
add a
so
day- just add a
what do
day
we
to it.
do,
Let's
really?
leave it the
It's
way it
okay.
is, please.
Let's leave it the
I
first
can't
through
judge.
the
I didn't make the
8th.
calendar up.
Yeah, let's leave it the
Okay.
1st through the 8th. That's okay. Okay.
Okay. April 1st at 7 a.m. through April 8th, 3 a.m.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
All right, and that was the original substitute motion, right?
Right.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the original substitute motion? April the 1st through April the 8th, if that's correct? All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay. All right,
Motion carried with Maniscalco voting no.
okay, item number 72.
The clerk should already have one, so there should be one for each council person.
Can I say everything first?
Oh, yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Thanks, Rebecca Kurt, Legal Department. You are here for a review hearing on a zoning administrator denial of a special use request. I have passed out sample motions, and Eric Cotton is here to present the case.
Good morning, Eric Cotton, Land Development Coordination. I have been sworn. This is an appeal by Alvaro Rodriguez. He was the applicant for the original special use. The request is to put an apartment building, a multifamily use, on a piece of property that does not have direct access onto a onto a arterial collector street. Where's my map? This will make more sense. So this was a special use one. It was SU 1 1902. It was denied by the zoning administrator. There's provisions in the city code. RM16 allows multifamily use as a special use. So you have to go through the process. There's two criteria that you have to meet. One is that it should have direct access onto an arterial collector street, as shown on the major street map. And the second one is it has to meet RM24 standards for setbacks and for height requirements. This request is on 15th Avenue. 15th Avenue is a local street. Because of that requirement, the zoning administrator is required to deny the request, puts them in front of city council. So the only waiver they're asking for on this site plan that you have before you is the access to a collector or arterial road. If that's granted, the applicant can then move into the permitting stages. There are some corrections that need to be made to this by the site plan, but those are not waivers that are before you today. Those will be handled at the time of permitting. This is the property to the south. This is the property to the west of the site, and this is the subject property, and this is across the street from the subject property. So as you can see on the map, across the street is vacant. The access would be coming out through 15th Avenue to 52nd Street to Columbus Drive. This is single-family residential use, but it is a multifamily, and the rest of the property around it is vacant. Does City Council have any questions for me?
Any question from council? None at this time.
If I could, Jared, just one quick question. So this is by virtue of the land being landlocked, essentially, in terms of being able to access it, but the zoning administrator does not have the power to change that based on the rules, correct?
Correct. The
Okay.
special use criteria cannot be waived by staff.
Got it. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from council? All right, petitioner? That's you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Junior. I'm the owner of the property. My name is Junior Rivero.
Thank you.
I'm the owner of the property. Me and my father we have a dream to try to get a multifamily affordable houses in Tampa. 15 days after this denial for a special use, he passed away. And then I just tried to get everybody involved, see if they can help me out to come here and present it and try to get an approval for that special use. And nobody gave me a hand, so I just decided to come here and talk to you guys to see if it's going to be a possibility to keep going with this project. And pretty much the same you presented. I don't know how can I put this here.
No, it's on this.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the subject property here. We got 7 lots. It's a total of 1 acre. And the next property next to that one is a duplex. And pretty much it's not a lot of neighbors or nothing. So I don't think it is it's a big deal. I think it's not going to be a lot of impact for the traffic wire or something like that. And then see if you guys can help it to get that approval. We're trying to build it. It's right here. We're going to do 16 units. A in the bottom and 4 in the bottom and 4 in the top, with all the parking and everything, and try to make it affordable. That way, people that can live there. We're gonna probably do a 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and this is our first project, and I hope this is not the only one. We want to continue try to get it more properties in Tampa. Thank you.
Any questions?
I just want to say that te lo voy a decir en inglés, en español. It's not that no one wanted to help you, it's that they couldn't help you.
Yeah,
Because
all right.
that's what the
Yes,
law
yes,
says.
I'm
I want
sorry.
to make sure that you're not holding them responsible, because la ley dice que no se puede hacer, ellos no te pueden ayudar.
Yeah, okay,
¿Comprende?
yeah, I understand.
Entonces
Yes.
tú tienes que apelar aquí, you had to appeal to this board to have it corrected or leave it the way it is.
All right,
So I
okay.
want to set that record straight.
Yes, no problem.
Okay?
Understand.
All right, thank you very much. Gracias.
Anyone in the public wish to speak on item number 72?
Move to close.
Second.
I got a motion from Mr. Miranda, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Chair, I can take this one if that's okay. I move to reverse the zoning administrator's denial of special use permit application SU 1-19-02 because petitioner has demonstrated that the petition, if the waivers are granted, is consistent with the applicable general standards set forth in section 27-129, see section 27-61 sub B, and 27-127 sub B sub 2.
Second.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Suarez, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Ms. Kaden, thank you. Let me just get some clearance. Did we make a motion to continue items 5, 60, 59, 60, and 61? 5 was removed?
But there was no official motion for it.
But that's what I'm trying to find out. Did we
We
make
did
a
not
motion?
move.
No, sir.
We need a motion to remove those items.
Well, if I can just delineate it, the action would be to remove item 5 and to continue items 59, 60, and 61 to April 4th, 2019, under the committee report.
So moved.
All right,
He can't make the motion, you gotta make the motion. You gotta make the motion.
I've got to make the motion.
Yeah,
I just stated it for the record.
I will make the motion that items 59, 60, and 61 are continued to April 4th, 2019, and that item number 5 would be removed from the agenda.
Thank you.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Suarez, seconded by Mr. Corn. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, information report, Mr. Suarez.
73, I'm sorry, number item 73.
73, move to reschedule the hearing, item 73, Mr. Chairman, to May 16th, year 2019, at 10:30 a.m.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Miranda, seconded by Mr. Corn. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, back to information report. Mr. Suarez.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing really, other than I mentioned earlier about March Madness. It's not about elections, thankfully. We have a lot of good teams, Florida State, Florida, and UCF. Well, maybe not UCF, but Florida and Florida State are playing today, and hopefully they'll make it as far as possible to the NCAA tournament.
All right, Mr. Corn. Mr. Maniscalco.
Yes, sir, I have a couple of things. I'd like to make a motion to present a commendation for Tampa Pride to be presented at the Tampa Pride Parade on Saturday, March 30th, 2019.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
All right, then I'd like to make a motion for a commendation to be presented to Stephanie Bedingfield, Carla Jimenez, and Reiner, and previous owners of Inkwood Books for their contributions to the local literary community in Tampa for nearly 3 decades. Inkwood Books is closing their doors March 31st. This is to be presented Thursday, April 25th, 2019.
Second.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And just a quick comment, just a shout out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for being the first team in the NFL to have 2 female coaches on their staff. That's it.
I hope they win something.
And we hope they win. Now they'll win.
Ms. Capine.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Miranda.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Vieira.
Nothing motion-wise, just want to make the public aware of the attacks that are occurring right now in Tallahassee on Amendment 4. The House Criminal Justice Committee is passed a bill that could impact the full implementation of Amendment 4, narrowing the language of those who are registered to vote. There are various provisions that would narrow the scope that I think voters clearly intended for Amendment 4. Voters, about 2 out of 3, spoke very, very clearly on this issue. And now Tallahassee, instead of doing nothing or going forward, is in fact going backwards on this. So I would encourage all of us to contact our elected officials in Tallahassee, including our governor, to tell them hands off Amendment 4. Nothing further.
Okay. Motion receiving file?
So moved.
So moved.
All right, got a
Second.
motion from Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, stand adjourned.
You can't take down that American flag. I see how it's.